Welcome to Bears Victory Monday, baby, on Second City Sports, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Along with Miss Lakeena McGee, I am Cindy Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at CK80. Once again, that's CK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
Follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. At Sports Zone Chicago. Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Make sure you download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your access to Apple, iTunes Store, or Google Play. Make sure you download the Sports Zone Chicago app today. You can listen to our live shows, including this one, Second City Sports. And you can catch up on past shows that we have right here on the network with Sean Maya Morning, Howard Tex Hall. Of course, all the other live shows we have on here as well. If you're missing the episodes, you can catch up on them using the Sports Zone Chicago app. If you want to listen to the audio version of this podcast, Second City Sports, you can do so at War on Anchor. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you type in those search engine boxes on those podcast platforms, WARR on Anchor. And make sure you follow War Media on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at WARR Media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at War Media. And thank you very much in advance for your support. Unmute yourself, Miss Lakeena.
You think I'd be used to that by now. Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Well, unapologetically fun, we have very different opinions. Lakeena, I want to start off by congratulating the Chicago Bears by defeating the Cincinnati Bengals exactly? 20-17 on the lakefront.
For what? For what exactly?
It is real. Yeah, it's real, folks. It's not fake. The Bears did defeat the Cincinnati Bengals 20-17. If you listened to our last show on Friday, yours surely, out of the three of us, along with our good friend Christine Manico, who's coming up this week on our next show to pick games for Week 3 in the NFL, yours surely took the Bears. As I told you on Friday, the teams that lose big in prime time usually show up the next week. Of course, it had a lot to do with the opponent, but the Bears did show up. They did defeat the Bengals, and I told you it was going to be by a field goal. No, they didn't score on the last second field goal, but I told you it was going to be by 3 points, and that's exactly what happened. Starting quarterback Andy Dalton had the first touchdown of the game. He had a 12-yard completed pass to Allen Robinson. After that, he ran 2 times for 25 yards. The second run, which injured his left knee, he did come back in the game, but he eventually had to leave the game, thus throwing in Justin Fields. Now, Justin Fields did look good, Lakeena, except for the interception late in the game, which helped tighten things up there for the Bengals. But, Lakeena, I am encouraged by what I saw from Justin Fields. What did I ask during preseason? We all know that Mr. Fields can run out of the pocket. I want to see if he can have that strong arm mentality, if he can throw it downfield. He did show it yesterday. You saw it a little bit here and there in the preseason, but he showed it yesterday, I believe, with timing and more reps with the first team, which I assume he's going to get up at Hallis Hall this week. He could be something special. Now, it's going to take some time. I know Bear fans don't want to hear this, but it's going to take some time for Mr. Fields to adjust and get acclimated with the ones. But as I said before, the road to redemption for the Bears will start when Justin Fields gets in there full time. It may happen this upcoming week if he gets his first start against the Cleveland Browns on the road.
Well, here's the whole synopsis of this whole game, because it was like I said, all that was missing, and I tweeted out yesterday, all that was missing was the circus music. It was just terrible, on both sides and on all fronts. Okay, you beat the Bengals. Good for you! Yay! Bravo! Yeah, okay, good. You sacked Joe Burrow 4 times. You intercepted him 3 times. You had a pick 6. Okay, yeah. Okay, Eddie Jackson. Okay, yeah. This week you actually looked good. Let's do this against a better, O-line and such. So you're not going to get any flowers. You're not going to get any bouquets from me, being a team that let's be honest, they're still not there yet, and they're still kind of like on the up and up for the Bengals. But okay, yeah, look, Justin Fields, I'm not worried about him. Okay, yeah, he didn't have his best game. Like, he's a rookie. Okay, whatever. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna like freak out on those numbers. I mean, okay, yeah, defense, he showed up. Roquan Smith had 8 tackles, leading the team, and such, but including the pick 6. But again, let do this against a decent team, and then maybe I'll give you a look see. But right now, you're not going to get occasionally for being for being the Bengals. You're not. I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, Sid and Lakeena are here with you, breaking down the Bears' 2017 win in Week 2 over the Bengals yesterday from the lakefront. Shout out to our good friend Armando. Yeah, good afternoon. If you want to do like what he usually does on every show, you can do so by going to Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Place your comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up for you. And if any of you guys decide to troll or do something stupid, Lakeena will politely give you the boot.
Bye-bye.
Lakeena, speaking of giving folks the boot, the Bears defense with 4 sacks and a pick 6 for Roquan Smith, who had a great game yesterday. I told you guys that the defense was going to have to step up, and they did against a lower tier offensive line in the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals running game couldn't quite get going like they did last week, and they went over Minnesota. Joe Burrow, he looked average at best. I know he had a touchdown pass late to Jamar Chase, the rookie wide receiver, his former college teammate from LSU. But through the majority of that game, Lakeena, I thought the Bears, the secondary still has some shoddy tackling at times, but I thought the linebackers played well. I know Eddie Goldman was not there again yesterday. He missed his second straight game, but I thought the defensive line did a fairly good job.
Yeah, I mean, look, like I said, they did okay. I mean, look, I'll give them their props. I mean, look, Smith had a great game, including with the pick 6. Like I said, he led the team in tackles. I mean, yeah, Eddie Jackson. Okay, your biggest hit was knocking off Duke Shelley. I mean, come on, that wasn't very okay. That wasn't a really good hit, but they had their drops too. I mean, look, Allen Robinson had a drop. One of the touchdown passes from Fields, and look, if he wants that big money, he wants that big payday. You can't afford to have those type of drops. And look, this offense is still a work in progress. This defense, yeah, let's see them try to do this against a good team, which they'll be facing on Sunday. We'll get into more about that as the days go. But okay, yeah, you look good. Okay, the offense still looked. You didn't give the ball to David Montgomery as much as you should have, and I kind of feel like he only had 20 carries. Justin Fields had to run the ball himself a couple of times. And so you really didn't have a plan. And the more interesting thing for me is Andy Dalton's status.
Mm-hmm.
Because, if you saw, he was walking around the sideline, Laura Oatman, who did the sideline for Fox, Fox Sports, along with Kevin Cooler and Mark Sanchez, who I think did a really good job on the booth Sanchez did. And, she said that, well, he's been telling everybody, Dalton, has been telling everybody, been telling the guys that, oh, well, look, I'm fine. But then, 10 minutes later, the Bears say he's out because of the knee injury. Now, it turns out he has a bone bruise, he's week to week. So, and then Nagy went to his whole word salad about, oh, well, you know what, I'm not going to get into that, and, non-committal. But then he came out like a few minutes ago after the presser and said, no, you know what, Andy's our quarterback, basically. So this is just a bunch of word salad, and I'm sure the locker room was divided. I know a lot of the guys there wants Fields to start. It's just that's gonna be the more interesting part than this game last night. I mean yesterday, I should say. I mean, okay, yeah, you beat the Bengals, whoop-de-doo, okay, fine, whatever. But this is really what's interesting me about all of this.
Take a look at the Bears statistics offensively from yesterday's win. Justin Fields went 6 of 13 for 60 yards in an interception late. Andy Dalton was 9 of 11 for 56 yards in a touchdown to Allen Robinson early in the first quarter. The rushing numbers looks like this. David Montgomery, 20 carries for 61 yards. Justin Fields, 10 carries for 31 yards. As I mentioned earlier, Andy Dalton, 2 carries for 25 yards, including the longest run of 14 yards. In the receiving department, Darnell Mooney stepped up, had a big game, 6 catches, 66 yards, and Allen Robinson, 2 catches, 24 yards, and a touchdown. David Montgomery, as I was asking on Friday, will we see more of him out of the backfield in terms of receiving? He had 4 targets, but he had 3 catches for 18 yards, and Marquise Goodwin had a catch for 10 yards. Lakeena, I meant to bring this up on Friday, but I saw a little bit of it yesterday. And not necessarily from the tight end position. You notice I didn't read any statistics from the tight ends because they didn't receive the ball. I wanted to bring this up on Friday. Will we see more of play action, especially after the game that David Montgomery had last week, over 100 yards rushing? We saw some play action yesterday, but give Cincinnati's defense credit. They had all the players covered downfield, and that's why we saw Andy Dalton run for his life the way that he did.
Yeah, it was. And I think I'll also, mention that I think Kmet had like one catch, but it was, it didn't go for anywhere. And like our buddy, Antoine, Mr. Showtime Ward, commented,
Showtime!
2 big drops from Mooney and Robinson. He said that worries him. And look, this is unfortunately this team's still a work in progress. I mean, we'll see how if Fields does end up starting against Cleveland on Sunday.
Which he should, no matter what happens to Dalton.
Well, again, like these are the Bears we're talking about here, folks, and
unfortunately, I know.
You're, especially with that person we just saw earlier this morning. Not earlier this morning, about an hour ago. You're not going to get much from Nagy. So I think this whole thing, it's going to divide the locker room. It might end up, I don't think it's going to result in anything horrible, but the consistency of it, bringing Fields in, every few plays, for packages and blah blah blah. It's gonna get tiring. You can't. I was doing like an after show with our buddy Kyle Means and Joe over Warren Media, and it's just we all said the same. The three of us all said the same thing, that this is, you can't get away with this. Assuming if Dalton's still healthy, you can't get away with this. As we get into the season, you got 17 games now. Teams are gonna latch on to it. They're gonna catch up to it, and look, okay, yeah, Fields didn't have his best showing, and look, let's remember he's a rookie. We said it's Peyton Manning didn't have his his best rookie season. He had 30 interceptions or something like that, and some among many others factors. So I think people need to kind of just relax a little bit. And also with another quarterback we'll talk about in our studs and duds segment. But Twan said, let's not praise the Bears defense. It was the Bengals. Thank you, Twan. Thank you. Thank you, Twan. That's why we're friends. Thank you, Twan, for saying this, because I think that's the thing that people are missing. That it's the Bengals. It's the Bengals. Come on now.
Well, I guarantee you this: if the Bears were giving up 300 yards or 400 yards of total offense, will be hammering right now like we did last week against a better opponent in the Rams. So I'm not saying this defense is 85. I'm not saying this defense is better than last year's defense, which carried them through the first half of the year. But they did do what they had to do yesterday against a lesser opponent. That's what we expected, and that's what happened. So I'm with you. Let's not overreact, but I'll give them their just due, like you said a few moments ago. Let's give them their just due. And speaking of giving people their just due, Royal Crossman had a sack yesterday along with that pick 6 in the fourth quarter. Khalil Mack, is finally nice to hear from him. He had a sack. Robert Quinn, I had a question marks about him ever since last summer when they brought him in, Lakeena. He actually showed up yesterday with a sack.
It's the Bengals.
Silent treatment.
It's the Bengals. It's the Bengals. It's the Bengals. And
I understand, but he still did something. He showed up on the session besides my TV screen yesterday.
Look, he made a bold-headed play by tackling Burrow. Burrow was basically daring him to tackle, and yes, some of it might have been a good acting job on Burrow's side, but you're a veteran, Quinn. You don't do that. And the official was right there. He's gonna call. They're gonna call it every time. So that was a boneheaded move there. But okay, good. That's nice. I mean, look, I'm not, like I said before, if they can, do this type of, game plan against the Browns, they probably can't. I'll give them their due. But right now, okay, you beat the Bengals. You're 1-1. You'll be tied for first place in the NFC North by the end of the night tonight. So, okay, good for you. Give them, some, bouquets of flowers.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sidney Browns. We break down the Bears' first win of the season in their home opener yesterday at the Lakefront, defeating the Cincinnati Bengals 20-17. On the flip side, Lakeena for the Bengals, Joe Mixon carried the ball 20 times for 69 yards. Receiving, Tyler Boyd had the biggest day of them all, 7 catches for 73 yards. T. Higgins had a touchdown late in the game. He had 6 catches for 60 yards. Jamar Chase had a touchdown late, 2 catches for 54 yards. And as I looked at the game yesterday, Lakeena, at least the first 2.5 past 3 quarters. The Bears defense, besides the shoddy tackling at times from the Bears secondary, they did hold Joe Burrow to mediocrity at best, slightly below. Now, like I said, I'm not saying this Bears defense is back yet. Let's, forgive her what they did last week at Los Angeles, but they did hold Joe Burrow down to what he did last week in their win over the Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, okay, they neutralized Mixon. They kind of stalled him for a little bit. He only had 69 rushing yards, and okay, that's good. That's a good thing. And plus, too, some of those throws by Burrow, you can kind of tell that. Remember, he didn't play a full season last year, so you can tell that some of those like a rookie would. Well, especially that last one, the road caught, it was like right to him, and he didn't get any help from either Chase or Higgins, and some of those throws. Now he did get it together a little bit, but it was kind of too little, too late after that. But I mean, okay, again, I have nothing else to say about this game. I mean, okay, you beat the Bengals. Okay, let's move on to the Browns, and this is sort of when we'll see how good this team really is.
And our buddy Antoine Showtime Ward chimes in again. I do believe that it should be Dalton's job until he loses it. However, there should be packages for Fields consistently in certain situations and not just random moments of the game. That's what we talked about on Friday, Lakeena. Would Justin Fields get on the field more than 5, 6, 7 snaps? Of course, Andy Dalton's injury changed all that. And so we saw Justin Fields for the majority of the game yesterday. As we said before, he still has some things to learn. It looks like the young man wants to learn, and his practicing habits are great. His attitude is great. Despite what the injury status for Andy Dalton is, me personally, Justin Fields should be your starting quarterback going forward. Now, I think this was the Bears' plan all along. If Andy Dalton's in there, it gives the Bears the best chance to win. If Justin Fields is in there, you signaling that you're rebuilding. As we said before, we don't want to go too much into this, but the Bears are in a transition mode anyway. So Justin Fields is your franchise quarterback. Him sitting on the bench for a long time will not help, but he eventually will need some experience. And that's what happened yesterday. I know some folks don't want to throw him in there next week against Cleveland, but if Andy Dalton's healthy enough to play and that happens again, what happened yesterday is really null and void.
And I think I think this is kind of the type of game that you actually wish that he could have had a better game, so you can have that confidence going into the Browns game. But again, like we were saying, like it's the rookie season, you're gonna get growing pains, and it's I'm not gonna put too much stock on it. I mean, okay, yeah, he had a bad showing, but that doesn't mean he's not going to get better. I mean, and you learn by doing, but then sometimes you learn by watching. So it really depends. This is a guy who is an eager beaver who wants to learn and on the fly. And again, we'll see how he does. I mean, that's a really good front seven that he'll be facing with the Browns. But I know they lost one of their. I know they lost one of their top guys, Josie Jewell, for the season to a torn pec muscle, so he'll be out. But they still got a really good front seven. The Browns do. So, I mean, look, you learn. You want to throw him to the wolves, fine. But I just think that you just gotta ease him in. I think.
Yeah, we'll see what happens because the $64,000 question will be who's going to start at quarterback depending on Andy Dalton's health. Will it be Dalton or will it be Justin Fields? So we'll keep our eyes and ears on that situation going on with the Bears at Hellas Hall this upcoming week. We reached the bottom of the hour here on our Bears Victory Monday right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. On the flip side, we'll review the best and worst of the NFL from week 2 action. Yesterday, we'll give you our studs and duds, and we'll give you a quick preview of tonight's Monday Night Football matchup between the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers. You're listening to Second City Sports only on Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. In Sunday's Major League Baseball action, the Cubs got pounded 9-1 at home against Kansas City. The White Sox shut out on the road 9-0 at Tampa. NFL preseason on Saturday, the Bills hammered the Bears 41-15. Andy Dalton, 11 of 17, passing 146 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Fields, 9 of 19 for 80 yards. Head coach Matt Nagy says Dalton remains the Week 1 starter and that Fields is ahead of schedule.
When you look at a guy like Justin and you see the things that he's doing, are there some things that he can get better at? Yeah, for sure. that's going to be, we're going to say that 3 years from now. But at the same point in time, for him, there's also things that he's doing better probably than we thought coming into this, which is good too. Like, that's what we want. We want that to happen.
Download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the blue star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast or your money back.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on this Bears Victory Monday on Sports Zone Chicago. Along with Lakeena McGee, I am Sydney Brown. Let's transition over to Week 2's action from the NFL from yesterday. Lakeena, let's start out in Philadelphia. The San Francisco 49ers are 2-0 after a 17-11 victory over the Philadelphia Eagles. Lakeena, I did watch the majority of this game in its entirety via my computer. Mm-hmm. It was 7-3 at halftime. Jimmy Garoppolo threw a touchdown pass. Slate, he threw another one in the fourth quarter. Couple things that jumped out to me. The Philadelphia Eagles couldn't punch the ball in at the goal line. They couldn't run the ball with any consistency. And the 49ers, people talk about them escaping Detroit with the win last week, which they did. They really escaped Philadelphia with the win yesterday. If the Eagles were more consistent on offense, they would have won the game. You know, I picked them to win on Friday, but they really disappointed me on offense yesterday. Brandon Graham, their defensive captain, he suffered a torn ACL, so he's out for the year. Philadelphia just couldn't get anything going offensively.
Yeah, it was just like they stalled a lot of drives. I think, Hurts did what he needed to do, but they were stopping Greg Ward, a couple of times, and that didn't work, and it just couldn't get anything going offensively. And look, San Fran did just enough to win. I mean, Garoppolo wasn't flashy, but like I said, I mean, he did just enough to win, and Lance wasn't out there, but I guess this is the kind of game that you want for San Fran. I mean, kind of like you tough it out and you grind it out. So they did just enough to win, and look, there were nothing. I'm sure Kyle Shanahan will be the first to tell you that it wasn't the best performance, but they did just enough to win that game. So it is what it is.
Speaking of the Chicago Bears' next opponent, the Cleveland Browns got by the Houston Texans yesterday, 31-21. Baker Mayfield, 213 yards and a touchdown pass. Nick Chubb, 11 carries, 95 yards, and they score. Tyrod Taylor for the Houston Texans. He injured his hamstring. He's day-to-day. It looks like he may not play in their Thursday night home game against the Carolina Panthers. Lakeena, Houston did cover the spread, I believe. They did cover the spread because they were under 13, 14-point underdogs. They lost by 10. But Cleveland, they were in the battle for the first half of their game, but they pulled away late.
Yeah, they did. And look at the Texans. The Texans gave them a run. There were a couple of things that happened during the game. David Culley, who's of course the rookie head coach there, I guess he declined a penalty, to go, which would have been 4th and 2. He decided not to, it was just a very strange play. You have to see it for yourself. But because I watched a little bit of that game live, and it was just a very odd showing there. But again, look, I think Cleveland wanted to win this game for just the fact that, especially since they should be 2-0 because they let that Chiefs game slip away. So again, you just enough to win. It's fine. I'm not gonna harp on it too much for the Browns. I mean, they didn't look ahead, so it's okay.
It was the Los Angeles Rams going going to the East Coast and picking up a 27-24 victory over the Indianapolis Colts. Lakeena, the Indianapolis Colts had 7 chances. I was watching some of this game live via my computer. They had like 7 to 8 chances to punch the ball at the goal line. They couldn't get it done. They actually took a brief lead in the fourth quarter after that Johnny Hacker Rams special teams mishap, fumbling a punt attempt. And the Colts took the lead, but Carson Wentz went out with another injury to his ankle. The rookie quarterback Eason had to come in. It looks like Indianapolis started to, after struggling in the first half, the second half, they started to get it together offensively, but they just couldn't hold off the Los Angeles Rams. Jalen Ramsey used to be number 20, now number 5. He made the game-saving interception late. The Rams defense held up, but it was Darrell Henderson which got the Rams offense off the ground. He had 13 carries for 53 yards in a score. It wasn't the yards. I know people want to look at it and say, sorry, well, he only had 53 yards, but he was effective throughout the whole game. And shout out to Cooper Kupp again with another 100-yard receiving game and a score.
Yeah, I mean, Henderson, did enough to keep the drive moving and kept Wentz and the Colts off the field. That's what you want.
Exactly.
And look, I mean, the defense, they did just enough. I mean, Ramsey had that, game-clinching interception. And look, I think, the Rams, they kind of let that game kind of catch up a little bit. They kind of, let the Colts catch up. But, Wentz got banged up and they couldn't, they really couldn't muster up, a drive together with Easton on the field. So, the Rams started, this is the 4th straight year that the Rams are starting, 2-0. And before that stretch, they were only like, they hadn't started 2-0, in their season since 0-1. So a nice showing for them. And look, I think these are the type of games, ugly games. You get down to a wire. And look, Henderson, I know he got a little bit banged up, but it looks like he's okay. So that's the important thing. You're going to need him healthy, especially since you're pretty thin on the backfield. So going forward, you're going to need to kind of like try to get him to be able to stay healthy and keep those drives going, and to keep your offense on it.
In the AFC East matchup in South Beach, Florida, it was the Buffalo Bills shutting out the Dolphins 35-0. It was the Bills' largest win over the Miami Dolphins since 1966 in the shutout win in South Florida. Josh Allen for Buffalo had 179 yards passing and 2 scores. Devin Singletary, 13 carries, 82 yards and a touchdown. Stephon Diggs, 4 receptions, 60 yards and a touchdown.
This we figured that the Bills were gonna take it out on the Dolphins, especially after that loss to the Steelers. We'll get to them in a second because it looks like I know they're going to be kicking themselves even more. But there was some time unfortunately Tua went out with an injury with bruised ribs, so he might not play on Sunday. But look, they did just enough to win. The Bills did. I mean, they just just hammered the Dolphins from the word go. The defense, made sure that they were that the Dolphins couldn't do anything, even when Tua got out and Brissett had to come in. I think this is sort of I think Bills fans are saying, look, this is more like it. So a great showing by Buffalo.
Another AFC East matchup took place in New Jersey. The New England Patriots defeated the New York Jets 25-6. Zach Wilson, the rookie quarterback from the New York Jets, had a terrible day with 4 interceptions, even though he passed for 210 yards. Damian Harris, the running back for the New England Patriots, had 60 carries for 62 yards, including the best touchdown run so far this season early in the game. Braxton Berrios for the Jets had 7 catches for 73 yards.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is like I think their 9th straight win over the Jets. 11, I should say, over their 11 straight win over the Jets. That's high for the longest win streak versus a single opponent. With joining Chiefs over the Broncos, that could change, and also Eagles over the Jets. So this is look, Zach Wilson. Look, you're gonna have growing pains. I know Jets fans are already like freaking out and having buyer's remorse, but I think he'll get better. I know he only had like 3 when he was at BYU last year, so probably not used to that. But look at again, like I said, the Patriots have the Jets numbers. So again, this is really Mac Jones is still didn't he didn't throw like 2 or 3 touchdowns, but he didn't make any mistakes. He was sacked 3 times, but I think this is if you're Bill Belichick, that's why you picked him to be your starter, to kind of not make any really bad mistakes.
And one of the top 2 upsets of the day was the Las Vegas Raiders getting by the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road 26-17. Derek Carr had 382 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. Najee Harris for Pittsburgh had 10 carries for 38 yards. Henry Ruggs III led all receivers with 113 yards on 5 catches for the Raiders, and he had a touchdown. Lakeena. I know most of the country watched that game, including us here in Chicago on CBS. Ben Roethlisberger, as I believe he's on his last legs as a quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, he really got roughed up yesterday, including a couple of shots to the head. I'm surprised that it was not a penalty thrown on either one of those shots. He really got rubbed up yesterday. Deontay Johnson, their young wide receiver, he went out with an injury as well. It was just a rough day for the Steelers.
And that 46-yard, touchdown, pass to Ruggs, Ruggs the third, was actually tied for the longest via air yards, I should say, for Carr. And look, I'm not going to say that the Raiders are going to win the division, but look, I think they're showing you that at least for right now. I mean, they're actually been pretty good. So we'll see how the season goes. But again, so far so good for the Raiders.
Yeah, they didn't let that Monday Night Football win get to their head and then travel to the East Coast. They overcame those obstacles and got the job done. It was the Carolina Panthers 26, New Orleans Saints 7. Jameis Winston did not have a good game. I'm not going to say that this is going to be him for the rest of the year. As we told you guys, the first 2 weeks of an NFL season is overreaction. I'm not going to overreact to what happened with Jameis yesterday. It was not a good performance, but it was a whole lot more factors why the Saints lost that game. Sam Darnold for the Panthers, 305 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey, 72 yards off 24 carries and a score. DJ Moore had 8 receptions for 79 yards and a score. The defense for the Panthers stepped up, obviously, big time.
Well, and also, too, like you said, to those circumstances, like half their coaching staff, had to stay home because of, COVID. There was a COVID outbreak among them. And, you can kind of say that played a little bit of a part. But again, I think that was just a letdown after that dominating performance against Green Bay last Sunday. And the Panthers, look, the schedule sets up for them to perhaps maybe make a run. I'm not going to say they're going to go undefeated, but, Darnold, it looks more comfortable on offense. He did have an interception, but okay, you're gonna lose on that. And the defense, again, nothing. These are not like the defense from a few years ago, but they've got some players on there. So I think I need to see more. They had a couple interceptions, including one from J.C. Horn. I mean, I don't, like I said, I don't know what to say about this Panthers team. Are they kind of like, I'm not gonna say they're gonna be the team to beat in the NFC South. We'll get to the defending champions in a second, but I think for right now, look, they seem to be batted by whatever Matt Rule's selling. So,
as you mentioned, it's so far so good. It is working. In last of the noon games, Vic Fangio, the head coach of the Denver Broncos, we said coming to the season that hot seat could get hot for him in his 3rd year at the helm. Well, that hot seat is cooled off, at least for the moment. The Broncos are 2-0 after a 23-13 win on the road at Jacksonville. Teddy Bridgewater threw for 328 yards and 2 scores for the Broncos. Javonte Williams ran the ball hard for Denver, 13 carries, 64 yards. Jerry Jeudy is out for the year for the Broncos in terms of the wide receivers, but Cortland Sutton stepped up in his place, 9 receptions for 159 yards.
Yeah, and also Gordon too. We're probably gonna see Gordon play a little wide receiver too, I believe. With Jeudy being out for the year, and look, their defense has been pretty solid too for Denver. And look, I like I said, Josie Jewelly's out for the year for them, but it's just. I don't, I think like you said, I think it got the heat off Vic Fangio for a little bit, but I think for the Broncos, I think you got to be feeling pretty good about your starts. Like I said, I don't know, they may challenge, I don't know, but again, we'll get to another one of their AFC West brethren in a second, but again, that's for the Jaguars. And when is Urban Meyer going to go to USC? I think that's what SC fans want to know. Didn't have a good showing from Lawrence. He was a little bit better, but still threw a couple of interceptions. James Robinson, he was kind of held at bay. There's really nothing you can say about the Jaguars. They might end up winning 1 or 2 games this year. I don't know.
You're listening to Second City Sports on the Bears Victory Monday right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid and Lakeena here with you as we break down NFL Week 2 action from yesterday. Lakeena, before we get to our late games, if you want to comment on today's show, you can do so by going to Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Place your comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the air for you. Let's go to the 3 o'clock games and perhaps the game of the day. Lakeena, I watched the majority of this game via my computer, and it was on Red Zone, NFL Red Zone as well. It was the Arizona Cardinals 34, I should say, and the Vikings 33. Of course, Joseph, the rookie kicker for the Vikings, missed the last-second field goal. Kyler Murray had 4 touchdowns total yesterday, 3 of them passing for 400 yards. Dalvin Cook had 22 carries and 131 yards rushing for the Vikings. Rondale Moore, the rookie wide receiver for the Cardinals, had 7 catches for 114 yards and a touchdown.
Well, I'm just glad that Gus Johnson and Akeem Talib, they had a good game to follow. If you saw you saw that those last few seconds, I think Paul Allen, who's a longtime radio guy for the Vikings, he thought that Joseph had made the kick, but his partner told him, no, dude, he missed it. You gotta look at the odds. And also, too, same thing with Gus and Talib. I mean, they were both going crazy. So
yeah, Akeem was like, oh, he missed it. He missed it.
Yeah, that's crazy. That was a little crazy. That was just a crazy game from the word go. I mean,
yes,
and the Vikings, you can go all the way back to those days when they've had kicking. I don't know what is it with the Vikings and their kicking issues. I mean, I don't get it. But again, this was a slugfest. I don't think a lot of people thought it would be, but this was probably one of the games of the day yesterday. And look, it was thrilling. And you thought that maybe the Vikings were going to pull it out, but then Kyler Murray says, he's showing you why he's one of the top quarterbacks. Rondale Moore had a really good showing on the receiving side, and they didn't. Unfortunately, I think Chandler Rose was kicking himself after the game. He said on Twitter, like I tried to get to him. I tried. So the O-line for the Vikings did a really nice job, but again, just a tough loss for the Vikings, but a big win for the Cardinals. These were the type of games they were losing last year. So the fact that they were able to pull this out should show them a little bit more confidence as the season goes.
I know only small segments of the country got a chance to watch that game. If you didn't watch it on Red Zone, if you don't get NFL Network / NFL Red Zone, hopefully I'm sure the NFL Network will replay that game at the court sometime during this week. They usually replay some games Tuesday through Thursday, so hopefully they'll replay the game for those of you that missed it yesterday. Like you said, I was very entertained from start to finish. And so Arizona picks up the 1-point victory on their home turf. Let's get to the defending champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They defeated the Atlanta Falcons 48-25. As I said on Friday, Lakeena, even though I picked Tampa Bay to win, Atlanta would play better, but they had a couple of plays that went against them. That was a big difference for the Buccaneers. Matt Ryan for Atlanta had 300 yards passing and 2 touchdowns, including the interception that was returned for a pick 6. Leonard Fournette for Tampa Bay had 11 carries for 52 yards. Mike Evans finally decides to show up. 5 catches for 75 yards and 2 scores. Rob Gronkowski, the tight end for Tampa Bay, he also had 2 touchdowns as well.
Yeah, this is actually they're the first team in NFL history to score at least 30 points and win in 9 straight games. That's including the playoffs, breaking the previous record as for Tom Brady. We were there for one of those records, for the Patriots in 2010 and 2011, but. Look, what more can you say about the Bucs? I mean, I don't want to hear about they're going to go undefeated. Let's not start that. But because they're going to start that talk. But Atlanta. Okay, what were everyone saying about Atlanta being a sleeper in the NFC South, or maybe clinch one of the playoff spots in the NFC? I'm still. I don't know. I'm still looking. I mean, Matt Ryan, 3 interceptions. Mike Davis, couldn't really get the running game going. Cordero Patterson, yes, he's over there now, folks. Only 7 carries, only 11 yards. Their defense.
He did have a score though.
Yeah, he did. But it was sort of like a garbage touchdown. And the defense. I know, the Bucs defense. They did just enough to kind of slow him down, and they scored 50 points almost. And I don't think you should be worried about the defense at this moment. But look, until somebody beats them, the Bucs are a team to beat.
The second game of the CBS doubleheader yesterday featured the Dallas Cowboys and the Los Angeles Chargers, as we call them on this show, the San Diego Chargers of Los Angeles. The Cowboys got a last-second field goal courtesy of Greg Zuerlein for the 2017 win. Justin Herbert for the Chargers had 338 yards passing, including a touchdown. Tony Pollard stepped up for the Cowboys in the running department, 13 carries, 109 yards in the score. Keenan Allen for the Chargers had 4 receptions for 108 yards.
Well, yeah, I mean, Zerline saved Mike McCarthy from himself with the time management. There wasn't really a lot of urgency there, and there were also some bad calls on both sides. I think the Chargers had a couple of touchdowns pulled back because of penalties, and it was just I look. This is one of those games where it's a wash. I picked the Chargers. I think the Chargers got robbed, and I'm saying this. Look, I think that. Look, Dak. Okay, yeah, Dak had an interception and wasn't flashy, but Pollard, helped, keep the drives going for them. And look, and this is sort of, unfortunately, it's going to be one of those games where you hope that doesn't come back to bite them in the butt. I mean, the Chargers, but okay, Cowboys, you're 1-1. Okay. Like I said, I'm right there with the Bears too. Like, show me more.
Hate. Another game going on at the same time was the Tennessee Titans upsetting the Seattle Seahawks 33-30. In the Pacific Northwest, Ryan Tannehill, my fantasy football quarterback, had 347 yards passing. Derrick Henry, as you said on Friday, Lakeena, we need to see more from him. 35 carries, 182 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That sounds like stud numbers to me. And Tyler Lockett from Seattle had 8 receptions for 178 yards and a score.
And it was actually Henry that helped, get the Titans back in it. I think Wilson, Russell Wilson and the Seahawks offense took their foot off the gas. And look, that's not an easy place to play, especially now that it's full over at Century Lake Stadium in Seattle. But the fact that the Titans were able to kind of pull it out, they were able to catch up and pull it out late. I mean that's very impressive. And look, Julio Jones they're finally giving them the ball now. Didn't score a touchdown, but kept those drives that got Tennessee to get back into the game. So, this is for Seattle. I mean, this is sort of one of those games where going to be. You hope that this is the type of loss doesn't come back to bite you, because the Seattle should have won this game, but good for the Titans.
And finally, in Sunday Night Football action, it was the Baltimore Ravens over the Kansas City Chiefs 36-35. After 2 early turnovers, Lamar Jackson led his Baltimore Ravens back. Lamar Jackson in the rushing department had 16 carries for 107 yards and 2 touchdown runs. Marquise Brown for Baltimore had 6 catches for 113 yards and a touchdown. Patrick Mahomes on the flip side for KC had 343 yards and 3 touchdown passes.
Well, and also too, I mean, Tyrann Mathieu had 2 early interceptions, including a pick 6. And look, the fact that it was back and forth, and the fact that they were able to, the Ravens were sort of, look, a win like this, despite everything what they've gone through with injuries, they're playing a lot of second string guys. Lamar Jackson ran for 107 yards, including that game-winning touchdown that sealed it. And if you saw, the GIF, during that last drive, of course, it's sort of like the mouth, reading, John Harbaugh's lips seen around the world. There been a few, I think, about like over 3 million times. And when you can read his lips, he said, "Look, Lamar, do you want to go for this?" You couldn't, they didn't show Lamar, but Jackson said yes, and he said, "Let's do it." And these are the type of wins that could be a good stretch for them. This could probably lead to something, because look, Murray's has some really solid runs. Freeman has some solid runs. Once you get them acclimated, you got also 2 Tyson Williams as well. This is sort of like a thing that can kind of, get something going. So we'll see. And look, if you're the Chiefs, you're sort of like, why did you give it to your MVP? Why did you give it to Mahomes? So this was actually a really surprisingly good game. I think people were surprised by that score.
Yeah, a couple of times I wanted to cut it off, but it was a nonstop action, scoring back and forth. So I left it on, and I was very entertained by it. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid and Lakeena here with you as we wrap up our football power hour. We do this every Monday, first hour of the show during the football season. Lakeena, since we have a couple of minutes left, let's get into our studs and duds from week 2 before we give you a quick preview of tonight's Monday Night Football action. Let's start with you, your 3 studs.
Ooh, my 3 studs. The Ravens, that gutsy call. I know people don't want to give, Harbaugh a lot of credit for that, but look, I think he realized that if they didn't make it, I think, the Chiefs would have won it. So I would say a very gutsy call there. Also the Arizona Vikings game, just a game itself, because it's actually a pretty entertaining game, which a lot of people thought, including us, ourselves, thought this was going to be a blowout. And also Tennessee. And Derrick Henry especially, 178 yards, 3 touchdowns, that got the Titans back in it. And the fact that they were able to pull that out in Seattle, where you rarely see a lot of teams, win, that's impressive. So those are my 3 studs.
Mines are Henry Ruggs from the Las Vegas Raiders with a big touchdown. Kyler Murray 4 touchdowns total, including 3 passing. And I will give my third stud to, let's see, drum roll, please. It will be Mr. Derrick Henry.
Okay. All right. What are your duds?
Duds. Oh, actually, a bonus stud. Before I get to my duds, a bonus stud. Arizona Cardinals head coach Cliff Kingsbury. They had 2 timeouts remaining before Minnesota was going for the game winner. I was yelling at my laptop, "Call timeout! Call timeout to freeze the kicker." Cliff Kingsbury is a way smarter man than me. He didn't do it. Joseph, the kicker for the Vikings, missed the kick. There goes the result. So Cliff Kingsbury gets a bonus stud from me.
Cool. All right. Now, what are your duds?
Does Robert Quinn from the Bears with that stupid penalty. So that's self-explanatory enough. The New York Football Giants from Thursday, they actually was in the control of that game, but your defense stinks, and I no. So that will get my second dud. And, of course, my third dud will be the Jacksonville Jaguars. I thought they would have a better start to the season. I didn't think they would go 2-0 like some people had predicted, including Colin Cowherd, but neither here or there. So those will be my 3 duds.
Going to that game, DeMarcus Lawrence for me in that Giants game, went off sides that gave Washington a mulligan, and they were able to pull that out. And it doesn't have to be able to nail that game-winning field goal. So that's a dud for me. What's another dud? Well, I'll say, and it's painful to say this because I lobbied for this team, but I'm going to say the Colts. Just couldn't get anything going those last couple of plays, and the Rams defense, showed up when they had to, and unfortunately they're 0-2 now, and I think I don't think there should be cause for concern right now in Indy, but I think there should be a little bit anxiousness going on there. And also, too, my number 1 dud is the taunting penalty. It's asinine, it's stupid. They need to get rid of it, and it wasn't necessary. This is the NFL trying to police themselves. I heard what Mr. Mars said, the Giants owner. Well, your team's 0-2 now, so you stay in your place, dude. And it was just a stupid rule all around. So those are my 3 duds.
All right, since we have less than a minute left in this segment, let's preview tonight's game quickly between the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions. That's the Monday Night Football game tonight on ESPN at 7 o'clock Chicago time. The game will be taking place from Lambeau Field. We all picked Detroit on Friday. Run that back. We all picked Green Bay. Sorry, that's why we have senior right as you turning quote-unquote 30. But we all picked Green Bay, Lakeena, on Friday. I'll give my quick keys for Green Bay. Run the football with Aaron Jones. And let's say Robert telling you their tight end will be used more, and especially in play action situations. Those are my 2 quick keys for the Packers to pull out the win tonight.
Well, I think we're going to see. I don't think it's going to be a blowout because I think Detroit's going to look. These are divisional games, and Detroit's going to be right there. But I think if you're Aaron Rodgers, your people are already questioning your toughness and your commitment. So we might see him have a really good game tonight. And I think this is sort of what's needed, especially since people are actually questioning his commitment. Also, others, other players, Devontae Adams, he doesn't have a contract. So I think this is going to be probably one of those things where I think, if you want the Lambeau fans not to boo you, I think we're going to see it tonight. I think it's going to be a really good game like it usually is between these two because these are old division rivals. But I think the Packers will pull it out. It will be close, but I think they will end up doing it.
Stay tuned for more sports and more fun as Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago continues with our good friend Lamont Pote, the White Sox beat writer from the Chicago Tribune. He'll hop on with us live from Detroit as the White Sox will take on the Tigers in a 3-game set starting tonight. The matching number is down to 4 for our Southsiders to clinch the AL Central Division title, and we'll have a whole lot more. You're listening to Second City Sports. I'm Sid along with Lakeena on Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. In Sunday's Major League Baseball action, the Cubs got pounded 9-1 at home against Kansas City. The White Sox shut out on the road 9-0 at Tampa. NFL preseason on Saturday, the Bills hammered the Bears 41-15. Andy Dalton, 11 of 17, passing 146 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Fields, 9 of 19 for 80 yards. Head coach Matt Nagy says Dalton remains the Week 1 starter and that Fields is ahead of schedule.
When you look at a guy like Justin and you see the things that he's doing, are there some things that he can get better at? Yeah, for sure. That's going to be, we're going to say that 3 years from now. But at the same point in time, for him, there's also things that he's doing better probably than we thought coming into this, which is good too. Like, that's what we want. We want that to happen.
Download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the Blue Star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast or your money back.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Along with Miss Lakeena McGee, I am Sidney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Sports Zone Chicago. And you can download that Sports Zone Chicago app at the Apple iTunes Store or at Google Play. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app. You can watch any of our live shows, or if you missed it, you can catch up on any of our past shows that aired from previous days. You can listen to the audio version of this podcast, Second City Sports, at Ward on Anchor. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you type in that search engine box, WARR on Anchor. And you can follow War Media on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
And we're going to have some fun as we transition over to talking baseball, in particular the Chicago White Sox. We're going to invite on a friend of the show. He's actually live from Detroit. I'm jealous of him because at least tomorrow or maybe Wednesday, our Southsiders have the potential to clinch the American League Central Division title. The magic number is at 4. He's a good buddy from the Chicago Tribune. He covers the White Sox for that great publication. It's Mr. Lamont Pope. Lamont, welcome back to the program. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back on. How are you two?
Good.
We're doing fine. Lamont, the Texas Rangers gave a little bit of a scare on Saturday night, defeating the White Sox and preventing the White Sox from sweeping their series. But on the flip side, the Cleveland Indians did not help out the White Sox. They took 2 or 3 from the Yankees, so the magic number is at 4. I wanted to give your quick synopsis of the weekend series for the White Sox, taking 2 out of 3 in Texas and Globe Life ballpark. The defense was kind of shaky on Saturday, but offensively, when they had to, they stepped up and stepped up big.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I take away, one of my biggest takeaways is the pitching. First on Friday night, what Dylan Cease was able to do, 5 strong innings, striking out 10. And then yesterday, Lucas Giolito continuing to make strides back from his second outing, coming back from the IL, and he looked very sharp in his in his 5 1/3 inning as well. And so I like the way that the pitching is sort of starting to get a little bit more in rotation, get everything a little bit more set on up as they go forward. Even Lance Lynn in his outing on Saturday, he looked pretty sharp as well. And so getting Lance Lynn healthy, getting Lucas Giolito healthy, we'll see Carlos Rodon here tonight. Getting those 3 guys, because those 3 guys, and plus Dylan, those are the 4 big guys that you're going to need to have some success here in the postseason.
Where does Dallas Keuchel fit in this? Because of course, he's starting tomorrow, against the Tigers. He has his last couple hours have been pretty good, even though the Sox didn't help him out in one of those starts. What do you think the chances are that this is sort of like a make or break if Keuchel could be a part of that playoff rotation?
Yeah, Dallas has been really honest about everything. He knows that he hasn't pitched up to his standards for the most part during this season, and he knows that it's a numbers game. It's a numbers situation where he might be that odd man out if you take a look at the way the rotation is setting on up, particularly the way that Dylan has pitched in August, and the way that he's pitched for the most part. He had the rough outing there against the Boston Red Sox, but then he was able to bounce on back there on Friday, like I said. So that might leave Dallas as the odd man out. And you take a look at, usually during that first ALDS series, it's you can go maybe 3. If you need a 4th, I think Dylan would be that 4th. You don't need 5 for that series. And then if you get into the ALCS, again, it's a situation where you might go with that shortened rotation. The bullpens are generally the people that make such a make or break in that sort of situation. So it's a situation where, what can Dallas bring to the table for the team if he goes to the bullpen? You already have someone like Ronaldo Lopez, the way that he's pitched, and he's shown himself as both a starter and as a reliever to be capable of doing both. So if you need to put Ronaldo back into that pen for the postseason as a long reliever, you have that spot already set on up, and you already have a couple of left-handed arms already in that bullpen in Aaron Bummer and Garrett Crochet. And so Dallas obviously has a ton of experience. He has a ton of wealth as far as knowledge, and he's been there. He's done that. He's won a World Series championship. You brought a Dallas Keuchel onto this team to help you get to that next level. And so, these next couple of starts will be an opportunity for him to, again, like you mentioned, the last couple of starts, he's shown some improvement. Let's see if he can continue that along here tomorrow night in Detroit.
Lamont Pope, the Chicago Tribune, he covers the White Sox for the great publication, joining us here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid and Lakeena here with you. Lamont, you brought up Dylan Cease. My opinion on this show has been he will be my number 3 starter in the American League Division Series. I was at the game a week or so ago against Boston where he didn't have it. I know some Sox fans went to town on him in terms of he's overrated and this and that. And I told people it was just a bad start. Let's see how he does in his next start. Friday night, you were there. He was tremendous with 10 plus strikeouts through 6 innings, I believe. Talk about Dylan Cease. Do you think he can keep this up, heading down towards the home stretch of the regular season?
Yeah, he seems to be very strong, and this is the Dylan Cease that everyone thought they were getting when they made the trade along with Eloy for Quintana. And so it's a situation where he's showing that growth. He's showing that situation where the big thing with Dylan is we've always known that he's had these tools, he's had the skills to be able to get the job done, but it was just putting everything all together. And you really saw him do that in August. He was very efficient. He's oftentimes when we talk to him after a game, he talks about being efficient. Pounding the strike zone, making sure utilizing all of his pitches and making sure that he's not wasting a pitch. And you saw that again there last night, or Friday night in Texas. There were sometimes early on in that game, he mentioned the first couple innings were a little bit of a struggle for him, but then he was able to turn it on. And once he turned it on, it was lights out for the Rangers.
Now, how about Eloy? Are we going to be seeing some of Eloy more in the outfield? He had that great catch last weekend. Even though he landed the same way, thankfully he didn't get hurt this time. So, are we going to see a little more of Eloy, especially as we get closer and closer to the end of the season, and we'll maybe see more of that during the playoffs?
Yeah. I mean, obviously he's made no bones about it that he prefers to be out in the outfield. He's more comfortable doing both. Designated hitter. But he's also mentioned, he's like, what, I don't like to be a DH, but I'm here and ready to do whatever I need to do for the team. And it's a situation where he's still kind of working his way on back. He got off to such a nice start after returning from the injury that knocked him out for nearly 4 months. But then he's been a little bit of a slump here recently. But we know the potential that Eloy has. He has pole-to-pole power. When he's on, he's taking that ball the other way. And that's one thing that he's going to have to get back to. thinking right field, thinking right center field. Take that approach, not try to do too much, not try to pull too much, because when you're pulling, you're going to get the ball on the ground, and he's hitting a lot of ground balls recently. He was really upset with himself Saturday night with that offer. The White Sox gave him a rest on Sunday, kind of clear his head, and so he can get back into it, because Eloy is going to be such a vital part, either hitting fourth or fifth in this White Sox lineup.
Speaking of the White Sox offense, Lamont, they've been doing it all year long with the guys in and out of the lineup. This is the first time we've seen the main core all healthy. I want to talk about a rookie that is not in the lineup yet, and that's Andrew Vaughn. He's had his moments throughout the season. I know he's currently injured with a bad wrist. When do we expect to see him back in the Sox uniform in the lineup?
Yeah, he's dealing with a little bit of a back issue. His legs were a little bit tired in the Oakland series, and then it kind of crept on up into the back area, and so they put him on the IL. It sounds like he's progressing pretty well. It sounded like it was going to be one of those shorter stints. It's not going to be one of those situations where you get to the 10th day and then it kind of expanded, sort of like what you had with Tim, where it was like a sort of day by day basis. It seems like, from the sound of it, it's going to be one of those situations where when he gets to that 10th day, he'll be ready to come on back and contribute once again for this ball club. But it's a situation as well, going through that full 162 for the first time as a rookie. You're going to have some ups, you're going to have some downs, you're going to have some highs, you're going to have some lows. He's been such a key contributor offensively and defensively. Here's someone who's a natural first baseman, but if you would have told me that he played left field his whole life, I would have said yeah, because of the way that he's been able to play it this season. And so he's been a key contributor, especially when Eloy was down, defensively and offensively. And so once they get him back on in, he's going to be a key contributor here down the stretch and in the postseason as well.
Who do you think is sort of like, among like the offensive guys, who's going to be kind of like the odd man out? Because there was a lot of depth there, as you said. So could it be Goodman? Could, that's sort of like a kind of a thing where like the rosters, has expanded, but there's still going to be some guys that are probably going to be left out in the playoff roster.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting just to see how that all unfolds. I mean, it's a situation where pretty soon we're going to get Adam Engel back into the mix, right? He's down in Charlotte rehabbing, and so it could be this series, it could be the next series that he comes back on up and helps the Sox. And so that's another outfielder that's going to create some more depth, and that's going to be another decision like you're talking about. So it's going to be either Gavin Sheets. Obviously the power that he provides from the left-handed side of the box is very important for this team, and that's something that, other than like a Yasmani Grandal or Yohan Moncada, they don't really have that. That's something that the team needs, and so that's something that Gavin can provide. Billy Hamilton, he's such a late inning contributor with his speed. He's a difference maker in the postseason. When you are in a situation where it's going to be a 1 or 2 run game, that extra run can mean all the difference in the world. And his ability to come on in as a pinch runner, steal a base or take that extra base. We saw that just yesterday, right? He came in and went from first to home on that hit there, and so that's what he brings to that mix. Brian Goodwin, he's had so many big hits, the walk-off home run there, the big extra inning home run against the Cubs as well, and so he's been someone that they've been able to plug on in and has made some big contributions across the board as well. And obviously, you're gonna have to make room for Larry Garcia, because he's just been able to do everything, right? And when you get to the postseason, it's like where are you going to play him? I mean, he's been one of their key RBI guys. It just seems like whenever particularly more recently, whenever you need a big hit, Larry's been doing. He does the big things and he does the little things as well. In yesterday's game, getting that bunt down to kind of start that rally as well, and so. A lot of really tough decisions for Tony to make, as far as who's going to be that person or two from the outfield that's not going to be able to in that mix there for at least the ALDS.
Let's talk about Tim Anderson. Of course, the popular narrative coming into the year was that Tim Anderson may not be the best player on the White Sox, but he represents the franchise with his attitude and his swag, as the kids would say, with his presence both on and off the field. But we've noticed watching the games this year that whenever he's not in the lineup, the White Sox offense suffers. Talk about Tim Anderson's bat in the lineup when he's in there.
Yeah, I mean, he is the igniter, right? He does everything that you want someone to do at the top of that lineup. He gets the offense going. A couple of the games that kind of stand out to me one was obviously the Field of Dreams game, getting the walk-off home run in that situation. But beyond that, the game against the Tampa Bay Rays recently in Tampa, the Friday night game, he gets the game-tying home run in the ninth, and then gets the go-ahead hit there in the 11th inning. Then he doesn't play on Saturday and Sunday, and they lose those two games. The Sunday game was one of the worst games that they played all season long, and so that's a little bit of the difference with the White Sox, with Tim and without Tim. Another really good example that I thought of was a game against the Cubs. Dallas struggled early. They gave up 6 runs in that first inning, fell behind. The bottom of the first inning, Tim Anderson comes on up, gets a double, and then he eventually scores. They only got 1 run in that first inning, but the fact that Tim got the ball rolling, they were able to rally on back and win that game 17-13. And so those are the type of things that Tim Anderson sort of provides that offense. He's just sort of like gets the offense going, gets everything going. He's really been one of the more valuable players for this team all season long, and so it's crucial. And I think that's part of the reason why they made sure to just take their time with the hamstring. They want to make sure that when he gets back, now that he is back, they want to make sure that he stays back. And so, it's been a situation where he's been on a day, he's been off a day. There's been a couple times. I think he's had one situation so far where he's played the back-to-back because he wanted to get back into that little bit more of a rhythm, particularly on the defensive side of things. And so it'll be interesting just to see when he can kind of get back and going and playing on a day-to-day basis, so they can have him ready to go and roll in here in October.
Yeah, we got a couple of weeks left in the regular season. Which team do you think do you want the White Sox to avoid? Do you want them to try to avoid the Rays or the Astros or whoever in the AL East, comes out of that, Toronto and Boston?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Toronto's been the hottest team right as of late, but this American League is so wide open. There's not a clear-cut team that would be like, man, the Sox really don't match up well with X or match up well with Y. Obviously the Houston series in Houston, they got swept, but then they were able to take 2 out of 3 against the Astros in the first series after the All-Star break. Playing against the Rays, they had the 3-game series at Guaranteed Rate Field was very entertaining. The White Sox won 2 out of 3 there, but then they lost 2 out of 3 down in St. Pete. And so the Yankees, obviously, when they were rolling, the Sox caught them at, they got the home run, as we talked about, at the Field of Dreams game to win that one, but then they came on back to Chicago, and that's when the Yankees just started rolling. They've gone back into a little bit of a funk. They can't beat the Baltimore Orioles, but it's a situation where if they're able to get on in, but Tampa, obviously Toronto as well. That offense, that lineup is so stacked. Guerrero, Simeon, just so many talented players for the Blue Jays lineup. And then obviously Robbie Ray is, it's either going to be Robbie Ray or Lance Lynn or Garrett Cole. Those are the 3 front runners for the AL Cy Young Award. And so when you're facing someone like a Robbie Ray who's just been lights out here, that's always a tough thing to go by. But like I said, I don't really see there one clear-cut team that the White Sox want to avoid from that standpoint, because I think that the matchups are going to come on down to, I kind of have to, that if it's Tampa, obviously Tampa's been so good, so consistent all year long, but I kind of throw a little bit of that series that the Sox played down in St. Pete out of the way, because you played 2 of those games without Tim Anderson. And so it's a situation where I want to see how the Sox at full strength kind of line up against some of these better teams at full strength as well, and that's what we're going to get the chance to see here in October.
Heading down the home stretch with Lamont Pope, Chicago Tribune. He covers the White Sox with a great publication right here on Second City Sports Zone Chicago. Sid and Lakeena here with you. Lamont, I want to talk about Jose Abreu. When he first made his debut in the Sox uniform in 2014, he was expected to lead the Sox into the new era that we're in right now. He's put up great numbers throughout his great career with the White Sox. I said this for the last couple of years. With the better players around him, he doesn't have to do as much. But looking at his statistics again, minus his batting average, he's going for his 3rd straight RBI title. No one saw this coming. I know I didn't.
I mean, he is just, if guys are on, he's going to knock them in, right? That's just sort of been the way that things have been. And I think it's made a big difference once, Eloy came on back as well. It just sort of gave him that added protection right behind him in the batting order. And also now with Yasmani back as well, it lengthened that lineup. And it's exactly like you said. I think that there was a period earlier in the season when some of those guys were out, that he was trying to do a little too much, kind of expanding his zone, and that was leading to some of those, the batting average being a little bit lower than what you're kind of used to with someone like Jose. But with Eloy back in the mix, with Yasmani back in the mix, it's been a situation where Jose's getting, he doesn't feel like he has to do as much. He can just sort of settle in and just be the Jose Abreu that he's been throughout his entire career, and that's just been consistent RBI guy year in and year out, driving in those runs and getting the big hits when the Sox definitely need them.
Last question for me, Lamont. Who is going to be kind of like the key guy for the White Sox to advance far in the playoffs?
It always comes down to bullpens, right? And so it's a situation where you add a Ryan Tepera, you add a Craig Kimbrell to the mix, and particularly someone like Kimbrell. That was the biggest deadline move that the Sox were able to make. It came as a surprise to a lot of people. You add in Ryan Tepera. You think, all right, well, you got another kind of 7th or 8th inning arm to help you out and bridge you to Liam Hendricks. But then you go out in that final day, you add in Craig Kimbrell, you give up a whole lot in Nick Madrigal and in Cody Hoyer, 2 really talented young players, but you get a veteran who knows how to close out games. And he's had some ups and he's had some downs since being here with the White Sox, trying to get adapted to that 8th inning role for the most part. And so I think it's going to be kind of crucial, again, because I can't, we stress it all the time. Bullpens are so essential they're so make or break when it comes to these postseason games. And so you're going to really need to have Craig on the top of his game and Liam on the top of his game as well, to be able to bridge and close out those games in crucial situations.
Last question from me, Lamont. Of course, the White Sox are going to win the AL Central Division title within the next few days or so, perhaps tomorrow, hopefully Wednesday. But I know this is a premature question, but I'll ask it anyway, even though the playoffs haven't started yet. What a grade would you give first year? Now I won't say first year manager. Well, he's back with the team, but what grade would you give Mr. Tony La Russa for how he's handled this team all year long with everything that's gone through on and off the field?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Obviously, the injuries have been, if you would have told me back in March that the White Sox would have lost Eloy and Luis for a huge portion of the season, I would have said, how many games are the Twins winning by, right?
Yeah.
And so the fact that they've been able to navigate through all these injuries, even when you lose a Nick Madrigal before the trade, or you lose a Yasmani Grandal, they've been able to plug different players on into this situation and in the lineup, and everybody's been able to produce from that standpoint. Obviously there's been some bumps along the way. We've talked before about the Yermin Mercedes situation. Obviously the situation in Cincinnati, we didn't know the extra inning rule with pitch running for Liam. But so I don't want to avoid giving you an answer but you hire a Tony La Russa for the postseason, right? You make a decision to add a Hall of Famer, a guy who has 3 World Series championship rings, for the postseason. And so my grade right now is incomplete, because the fact of the matter is everything is all, if I'm the teacher, it's all going to come down to the final exam. And so how he fares in that final exam is going to be, is where you're going to be able to ultimately kind of have that grade. But, like I said, the fact that they've been able to navigate through all these injuries, that's a positive for him in the way that he's been able to utilize. And, obviously the pitching, the pitching staff has been phenomenal, starting pitching for the most part this season. But yeah, it's an incomplete until he's able to figure it out, and we see how the playoffs unfold.
All right, I'll definitely agree with you on that.
Yeah. All right, that was Lamont Pope, Chicago Tribune. He covers the White Sox with a great publication. You can follow him on Twitter at Lamont Pope. Once again, at Lamont Pope. Lamont, I know you're there in Detroit. You got to head on out there to Comerica Park. Assuming that the White Sox can clinch there tomorrow or perhaps Wednesday, do you have your champagne goggles ready, your raincoat, before the folks let you in?
That's part of the problem with the Zoom world right now, right? The fact that that's something that we're going to have to miss out on. And so I do have an extra jacket. I've had to do that in the past, but yeah, unfortunately, we're going to be in a Zoom room, and so we're not going to be able to be on down there to avoid the champagne.
If you can sneak in there, grab us an extra champagne bottle too.
Oh, gosh. Oh, goodness gracious. All right. At Lamont Pope on the Twitter. And you can read his stuff, of course, on the Chicago Tribune. All right, Lamont, be careful. Stay dry if they do clinch while they're on the road. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks as always. Had a great time.
No, thanks, Lamont. Take care.
Thanks, Lamont. Stay safe and dry. All right, that's Lamont Pope here on Second City Sports. Like I said, you can read his stuff on the Chicago Tribune. Okay, so we got a few more minutes before we go to break. Let's talk about the rest of the stuff that's going on in the MLB. What caught your eye this weekend?
Congratulations to the Milwaukee Brewers for clinching a playoff spot on Saturday. I know that game was on national television for part of the country to see as they faced the Chicago Cubs, taking 2 out of 3 from them. So as I said before, Milwaukee and San Francisco has something to play for. Whoever wins home field advantage in the playoffs will perhaps go to the World Series. I know before people yelling at me, well, the Dodgers are in it too. Yes, that's true, but they're going to have to beat up on their NL West opponents between now and the end of the season. So San Francisco and the Dodgers were still battling out for the NL West. So congratulations to the Brewers for clinching the NL Central. Not the NL Central title in a playoff spot as well, so they'll clinch the division in the next couple of days or so. So congratulations to the Brewers. They're officially in the playoffs. Looking at what happened in the last couple of days, of course, Oakland taking care of Anaheim. The Mets finally got a win last night, maybe too little too late over Philadelphia. Philadelphia, you know me, Lakeena, I like Joe Girardi, local guy, but that Philadelphia bullpen and their inconsistent offense, if they don't make the playoffs, they'll be their doom and gloom. And so I we'll see. Philadelphia, they're kind of iffy. They're up and down. And of course, the St. Louis Cardinals, they take care of the Padres in their backyard this weekend. Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis get into a friendly shouting match. And I know the Padres manager tried to downplay it on Saturday following the loss. I don't know if you heard this rumor, Lakeena, but quickly, Bruce Bochy, who retired from managing a couple of years ago from the San Francisco Giants, he may be rumored to come back to manage the Padres. If the Padres miss out on the playoffs this year, they're still in the NL wildcard race. But if the Padres miss out on the playoffs altogether this year, it may be a good idea to bring Mr. Bochy back.
Yeah, I think that's probably they're going to need someone who is experienced. He's got 3 World Series, someone that can kind of rein in a lot of those young guys. I mean, I saw that little tip between Tatis and Machado, and look, I think if they were in a better position, if they were in a position where the Giants are leading the division, it probably wouldn't be happening. But since they've underachieved this year, now we're seeing that little tit there and that little tit for tat here. But and as far as, like I said, congrats to the Brewers. I think it's going to go down to the wire with the Braves and the Phillies. For the NL East, if they do play each other later next week, again we'll discuss more on that. When the time comes. I think the Braves have, I believe, the Diamondbacks starting tonight, and I think the Phillies have the Orioles starting tonight as well. So that again, don't take those 2 teams live before you guys play each other. And look, the Dodgers and the Giants, they don't play each other again this year, so it's all gonna depend on which team will screw up. And the Giants have the Padres. Speaking of the aforementioned Padres tomorrow, and the Dodgers have a little bit of an easier schedule, so we'll see. I think it's all gonna come down to who wants it more. And as far as the AL East, it's still. The Rays, I think the magic number is like 5, I believe, with the Rays, because you still got the Red Sox and the Blue Jays.
Yeah, they lost 2 out of 3 to Detroit this weekend.
Yeah, so that's that kind of gets them back in it, but there's a log jam there. It looks like maybe the Yankees. I think maybe you may have to say bye to Aaron Boone. I mean, they lost to the Indians, the aforementioned Indians. So
yeah,
it's just I really don't know. I mean, look, it's kind of going down to a wire with some of these wild card races.
Yeah, and like I said, Boston took care of their opponent over the weekend. I'm trying to look it up real quick. They took care of Baltimore in Fenway this weekend. So you mentioned the AL wildcard race and the AL East race. So like I said, Tampa will probably end up winning that. But the AL wildcard race, Seattle, You eventually may have to say goodbye to them, even though they hung in there all year long. Oakland still trying to hang on. So it's going to come down to the final weekend of the season, and it's going to really impact the Chicago White Sox. As we said on our last couple of shows, Lakeena, the White Sox have an outside shot of getting the number 1 seed, but realistically, they can get the number 2 seed from the Houston Astros, and I think they can do it as well. Hopefully, the White Sox can sweep away the Tigers, get this division clinched and out the way. I know Cleveland has a doubleheader today against the Kansas City Royals. Yeah. Hopefully the Royals can show up and sweep the innings for us Sox fans. We win our game tonight, and the magic number will be down to 1. Right now it's at 4. So any combination of Sox wins and or Indians losses will clinch the division for the White Sox. Hopefully they can clinch it tomorrow or perhaps Wednesday afternoon. So the White Sox have their work cut out for them. They're going to get it done, and manager Tony La Russa can hopefully set up his rotation. As you mentioned, Lakeena, 2 weeks left in the regular season, he can start setting up his starting pitcher rotation, getting ready for the playoffs.
Should be a fun, next week, for not just for the White Sox, see if they can clinch, but also all of baseball. Who's going to clinch? Who's going to end up, just going, fall flat. So it'll be very interesting. So we're going to take a really quick break in our last segment of the show. We'll recap college football, some big news coming out of ESPN. They launched a new NBA show, and some other stuff too that we got coming up next. So still got a lot to talk about still, but this is Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you on the other side of this break. Stay there.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. In Sunday's Major League Baseball action, the Cubs got pounded 9-1 at home against Kansas City. The White Sox shut out on the road 9-0 at Tampa. NFL preseason on Saturday, the Bills hammered the Bears 41-15. Andy Dalton, 11 of 17, passing 146 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Fields, 9 of 19 for 80 yards. Head coach Matt Nagy says Dalton remains the Week 1 starter and that Fields is ahead of schedule.
When you look at a guy like Justin and you see the things that he's doing, are there some things that he can get better at? Yeah, for sure. That's going to be, we're going to say that 3 years from now. But at the same point in time, for him, there's also things that he's doing better probably than we thought coming into this, which is good too. Like, that's what we want. We want that to happen.
Download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the Blue Star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast, or your money back.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid and Lakeena here with you as we wrap up today's show. We just got off the line with Mr. Lamont Pote, friend of the show. He covers the Chicago White Sox for the Chicago Tribune. He's heading to Detroit's Comerica Park to cover the White Sox and Tigers series. The first of the 3-game series starts tonight with Carlos Rodon on the mound. And the White Sox magic numbers at 4 as the Sox trying to clinch the 2021 AL Central Division title. Go follow Lamont Pote, as Lakeena mentioned, on all social media platforms. You can read his articles in the Chicago Tribune and chicagotribune.com. Lakeena, it was some great college football action this past Saturday. I got a chance to catch a little bit of it. We'll start off with the big noon Saturday game. Number 3, Oklahoma gets by Nebraska 23-16. And DJ Graham, what a hell of an interception. One-handed, the Cleveland play of the weekend, maybe even play of the year. That should get him an ESPY for next year.
It really shouldn't. Right in front of Trae Young too. From Oklahoma star there. He caught the game on the sideline. He actually had a view of it on his TikTok. So if you guys have a chance, check that out. Just from that vantage point, him and a couple of friends were at the game and on the sidelines. It actually ended up being a pretty good game. Like I said before, that Oklahoma defense, keeps things interesting, if you will. But that was Oklahoma was able to pull that out, from against Nebraska. Alabama, I think they're vulnerable. I mean, I think I remember people need to remember too. Florida didn't have their first year Anthony Richardson. They had Emil Jones, who was their second stringer. They did not. I think there was a couple of plays late, especially as they were trying to get that field goal. Emory Jones, I should say, that's the young man from Florida, second stringer there. But yeah, I mean, but I think they're showing you that Florida gave you the formula, guys. I mean, you guys just got to go through it. And even Nick Saban himself kind of warned everybody, "Hey, look, we're not perfect. We have our deficiencies." So, and we saw it against Florida on Saturday.
Yeah, Alabama gets by Florida 31-29. Bryce Young for the Crimson Tide had 3 touchdown passes, over 240 yards passing, and number 4, Oregon gets by Stony Brook 48-7. I wanted to break down the Clemson and Georgia Tech game. That first half, 32 seconds left in that first half. It was nearly a 2-hour delay because of weather. But number 6, Clemson gets by Georgia Tech 14-8. Lakeena, I know defense wins championships, but you got to put some points on the board, and Clemson is not doing that right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of, I think it's a combination of, they're kind of having to start over because a lot of their offensive guys are in the NFL now. So it's going to take a while for these guys to kind of, get it together. But again, maybe this is a good thing. These are the kind of games that I think you want for a team like Clemson to kind of show people that, hey, we can pull off these kind of games. You lost one against Georgia, but you're able to pull it out against Georgia Tech. So I'm not, at least at this point, I'm not too worried if you're a Clemson fan right now. Now, Cincinnati had a nice comeback there against Indiana. I watched a little bit of this game, and Indiana had them on the ropes. But look, Desmond Ridder is showing you why he should be, kind of like in the run for a Heisman. They had a punt return, 100-yard punt return for a touchdown. That kind of, sort of blew the game wide open there. So, for Trey Tucker. So that was a really good game and a very entertaining game too. And especially the hostile crowd like that, because those Indiana fans, they were jumping.
Yeah, shout out to a good friend of the show, Shay Pepler from ESPN. She's a Indiana Hoosier alum, so I know she was excited but disappointed by the result. Speaking of the state of Indiana, number 12 Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, get by Purdue 27-13. Whether Jack Cohn for Notre Dame, he had 223 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. Running back Kyron Williams had 12 carries for 91 yards and a score.
Yeah, that was that was a very interesting game too. I kind of feel like, but I think it's sort of one of those games where you sort of say, you know what, it wasn't pretty, but they pulled it out, so that's the important thing. I mean, look, like I said before, Notre Dame is very overrated in my opinion. I think they will slip up. They are going to slip up at some point. So, I'm not too, I know I got a lot of fans. I got a lot of friends who are Notre Dame fans. They're kind of yelling at me about, y'all going to lose a couple of times. So y'all go ahead with that. But so I'm not that didn't really impress me. Our buddy Armando chimed in about Georgia Tech lost to Purdue. I mean, Northern Illinois, I should say. Well, Northern Illinois got their butt kicked by Michigan, so that's really that's not really like a good a good loss to kind of lean on there. But we'll see how Michigan looks as they get because they have a very tough game against Rutgers Saturday. So we'll talk more about that on Friday's show. But the whiteout game over at Penn State, you got
that was a great game to watch. I watched part of that following the conclusion of the White Sox game. Of course, number 10 Penn State, the Nittany Lions. I finally said it correctly the first time. And they got by the Auburn Tigers. They're ranked number 22, 28-20. Sean Clifford for the Nittany Lions had 280 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. And of course, Jahan Dotson had 10 catches for 78 yards and they score. Lakeena, you mentioned, as I mentioned on Friday, watching the commercials, the whiteout, it was great to see that crowd there in Happy Valley. Auburn had a couple of chances to steal that game. Penn State actually had a chance to put that game away late with the fumble return for a touchdown. It was the right call by the officials to call it back after the replay review. Auburn still had a chance to tie the game up, but Penn State had the excuse the expression, they had the stones to make some plays down the stretch to seal that game. It was a very good game to watch in that great atmosphere.
Yeah, Penn State has won 4 of the last 5 of those whiteout games, so that's a nice a testament to them. And look, I think there was an Auburn player that got ejected for targeting, which was stupid. Another stupid rule that needs to be rescinded. But again, we don't have the time for that. But yeah, I mean, this actually ended up being a very entertaining game. And look, I'm not going to say that Penn State's in the driver's seat with Ohio State struggling. They're in the driver's seat in the Big Ten East. But I think Dotson probably has a chance to perhaps maybe put his name in the Heisman hat, and look, we'll see what they do the rest of the way. They got a pretty tough schedule too as they go deep into the conference play. So we'll see how they do. Probably one of the most head scratching losses was by UCLA against the Fresno State from the Mountain West.
Chip Kelly may be back on the hot seat.
Yeah, that was definitely a head scratcher there. But look, I mean, shout out to the Bulldogs, from the Mountain West. I mean, they've actually been, pretty good. I mean, they're 3-1 right now as they get into their conference play. Jay Hayner had 2 touchdown passes. They couldn't stop the run, UNLV. So Ronnie Rivers had 136 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, and they just couldn't really use it. Just really could. I think this is sort of one of those things where they kind of took Fresno State lightly. So I was able to kind of catch a little bit of it. It was on the Pac-12 network, but it just seemed like they kind of were sleepwalking, and wait a minute, they actually came to play Fresno State. So we better, give Fresno State credit for able to hang on.
Yeah, that's what happens when you get caught with your pants down. Excuse the expression. West Virginia, the Mountaineers, they get by number 15, Virginia Tech, 27-21. Braxton Brummeister for Virginia Tech had 223 yards passing, including 2 touchdowns. For West Virginia, Letty Brown had 19 carries, 161 yards rushing in a score. Khalib Smith for Virginia Tech had 6 catches for 58 yards.
Yeah, a nice showing there of that West Virginia. They had a little bit of a rivalry there, between them and Virginia Tech. They play like every other year, but this is a nice way for West Virginia. They lost a tough one in their last game. I believe it was OK State, but they were able to bounce back and up kind of a minor upset, beating Va Tech. So this is a nice showing for them. We'll see what the Mountaineers can do the rest of the season.
Yeah, my guy Herm Edwards to number 19 Arizona State. They lose to number 23 BYU as they improve to 3-0. They defeated Arizona State 27-17.
That was Maryland that the West Virginia lost to. But yeah, this game, I mean, they couldn't slow down BYU. They made some, Jaden Daniels made some mistakes, for Arizona State, and BYU was able to take advantage of it. So look, I'm not going to say BYU is going to run the table. I know Cincy and Coastal Carolina fans are not going to be very happy with me. But yeah, I mean, I see a couple of losses for BYU there, but they got the best of. They've actually been playing pretty well against these 2 teams. Have been bad at the last 4 seasons. I think this is that they're even now. So, it's just a tough loss for the Sun Devils. But it is what it is.
Let's head over to the Big Ten. Michigan State, they're 3-0. Congrats to Mel Tucker. They defeated number 24 Miami 38-17. I did get a chance to catch some of the second half. De'Aaron King, the quarterback for the Hurricanes, he had 388 for 2 touchdowns, but he had a couple of costly turnovers. Michigan State was able to take advantage of them. Michigan State they were the better team. They put up 21 points in the fourth quarter. Michigan State deserved the win. They were the better team, period, in the sentence.
Yeah, that's all I can add. I mean, I think Peyton Bourne had 4 touchdowns, 4 touchdown passes. Kenneth Walker, no touchdowns, but he had another 172 rushing yards. So, but yeah, like you said, the defense, it was a defense that kind of killed the Canes. And, I think Manny Diaz is on the hot seat there,
Yeah.
We'll see. But it's Mel Tucker's got Sparty playing pretty well. They're 3-0 now. So we'll see how they do when they get into conference play.
Yeah, I know locally, of course, Michigan State gets by Northern Illinois 63-10.
Gets by, you said.
Yeah. Illinois loses to Maryland. I know that was last Friday. And Northwestern lost to Duke on the road. I did turn to that game via my computer, and I saw the score 24-0. I was like, let me turn away from that. I'm glad I did.
Yeah, the Northwestern did make it interesting, though, but like you said, it just wasn't enough. And I don't know. I mean, we were afraid this would happen with Northwestern with a lot of their guys leaving, for the NFL and such. And
Yeah.
now we're seeing it. They have a great season, but then they end up having, taking a couple of steps back. So what can you do? Minnesota shut out Colorado 30-0. They went up like 15, like 14. I should say. I kind of left the game, so like, okay, I thought it was gonna be a little bit closer, but it's. Look, I think PJ Fleck, we'll see how they look as we get into conference play deep into it. But I mean, it's going to be a very interesting, Big Ten, especially on the Western side. I know Iowa's on the driver's seat right now, but strange things happen.
Yeah, and let's review this last game from the top 25. Number 9, Ohio State had a little trouble with Tulsa, but they get by Tulsa 41-20. Trevelyan Henderson had 24 carries, 277 yards, and 3 scores for the Buckeyes. Lakeena, I know Ohio State is 2-1, but when we get to the later part of the season with conference play, the schedule is going to get tougher. I know Ohio State has the talent, but they're just not in sync right now. Not what we expect from them historically coming from that program.
Like I said before, when they game against Minnesota, the first of the season, I mean, they didn't look that impressive, and their defense is that's gonna be the thing that's gonna keep them from going to the Big Ten championship again this year. It's gonna be their defense if they don't improve. Like I said, it's gonna get tougher. I think teams are gonna see that they're maybe a little bit vulnerable. So we'll see how they look. And look, that's not to say that they can't get better, but right now I'm not seeing it. So that's Oregon was able to expose that. But also a shout out to Deontay Williams who was interim coach over at USC. USC had a nice win against Washington State. Wazoo 45-14 after overcoming a 14 at the deficit early on. But I'm not going to say he's going to end up getting the job, but it's obvious that the player loves him. So we'll see how he finishes the season. He's probably going to have to win the Pac-12 South in order to even have a chance to actually get an interview for the job. So
yeah.
We'll see what he does the rest of the season. Also, Oklahoma State and Boise State. That was a very interesting game that got down to the wire. There, Oklahoma State was able to got a piece of a field goal that ended up actually hanging on to win the blue turf. So a nice win for Mike Gundy and his guys over at Boise in that blue turf.
Instead of the same guy saying, "I'm a man, I'm 40."
That's him. Well, he's actually 50. Well, he's 51 now, so that's.
I'm 51. I'm halfway there.
Exactly. Also, to Northern Arizona, shout out to them. They actually beat Arizona. That's they have a new coaching staff there in Arizona. So, so it's a nice win for the FCS. They are also Florida State. I don't know what to say. They're 0-3 for the first time since God rest his soul, Bobby Bowden's first year in 1976. I don't know. I guess Malone's got to do some soul searching right now.
I was getting ready to say, even in my lifetime, I'm not a college football head like that, but Florida State struggling 0-3 to start the season. It had to have been a long time since that's happened.
Yeah, also Utah, San Diego State with a nice win against Utah in triple overtime. I actually caught a little bit of that too on CBS Sports Network. That was a lot of fun. So yeah, a lot of great fun games, in college football this weekend.
Yeah, so as we said during the football season, #Football Friday around 12:30 p.m. Central Standard Time or so. Lakeena will give you her best college football games to watch for the coming week's game. So keep it right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Lakeena, you mentioned that ESPN has finally revealed their new host for their new NBA show starting this fall for the 2021-22 season.
Yeah, in the NBA today, I know that's a little confuse some people with not to be confused with NFL today on CBS, but the NBA today is hosted by Malika Andrews and a cast of thousands. They'll make their debut sometime, I think, in the next few weeks. So definitely, very unfortunately, Twitter is not working right now, so I had the thing up, but it's not showing anything. But look, I think this is a big opportunity for her, especially after what happened with Rachel Nichols, and we're not going to rehash all that. But this is this is like a really great show among some of the other folks that are going to be appearing on there. Shanae Olagoulier, that's why she got pulled out of her show with Mike Golick on their ESPN radio show. A few also too. Adrian Wojnarowski, I think I have it right here, amongst many others. And yeah, so this is going to be a new show that's going to be launching on ESPN. And yeah, so what do you think?
Yeah, did they say the date yet or not?
No, I'm trying to get the article up, but apparently Twitter's not working right now. So
what a coincidence!
I know.
But congratulations to Miss Malika Andrews for a great assignment. Hopefully ESPN will still let her do some sidelines for at least for the important games for this upcoming season, including the playoffs as well. She did a heck of a job doing the final, stepping in for Rachel Nichols. She was here in Chicago for a brief time, but she did great work for the Tribune as well. And so she's been all over the country covering the NBA and other sports as well. So she deserves this opportunity, and I'm sure that show is going to be great. Now, Lakeena, I know me and you are the same age. Remember when ESPN had the original NBA Today show? It was a half hour. Mark Jones, who still works with them, and of course he's the lead TV voice for the Sacramento Kings. He used to do that jumper pose at the end of every show. that was hilarious, but it was the style, it was the flair that he brought to that show back in the 90s. So I'm sure, especially for you younger folks listening, watching us on YouTube, go pull up those old clips on YouTube. It was something to watch back in the day. Coming home after school, right before those old school sports centers, you watch some NBA Today, and you get Mark Jones with his flair and his style. It was another. I don't know if it's going to be like that this time around, but it was just some good times back there watching the original NBA Today show on ESPN. This is before they had that contract with the radio, with the ESPN radio. Of course, now they have everything with their television.
Yeah, I got it right here on my phone. It will premiere on October 18th.
Okay.
At 2:00 Chicago time. Malika is going to be there with Kendrick Perkins, Vince Carter, Shanae, Zach Lowe, Adrian Wojnarowski, and also Ramona Shelbourne will be a rotating panel. So yeah, so it's going to be kind of like it's going to be sort of a similar style, but I think they're going to keep it professional and such. So yeah, so that'll air starting October 18th.
Also, shout out to Vince Carter. I know ESPN brought him on slowly last year. I know he does some part-time work with the Atlanta Hawks broadcast team as well. But Vince Carter did a heck of a job with Bob Fitzgerald on NBC during the Olympics. Of course, Bob Fitzgerald is the TV voice for the Golden State Warriors. But I was hoping that Vince Carter would get more opportunities with ESPN to do shows, not just pop up on SportsCenter. It looks like he's going to, as you reported, that he's going to be part of this show hopefully on a regular basis. And so Vince Carter really has a lot to offer. He's an intelligent young man. So he knows what he's talking about. And so he could bring a different perspective from the player side. So it was nice to see Vince Carter get more opportunities besides just SportsCenter.
Yeah, hopefully he'll be doing some college stuff too. He was a star player over at North Carolina for a couple of years. So I'm hopefully he'll be able to, they'll use him for their coverage as well, especially with Roy Williams, retiring, and now Coach K is going to retire at the end of this season coming up. So we'll see how he does. Now we got a few more minutes left, Sid. Is there anything you want, any sports media wise or sports wise we didn't get a chance to talk about yet, kind of caught your eye this weekend?
Now, going back to the NFL, of course, Aqib Talib and Gus Johnson, they did a great job yesterday. As we said on Friday, it was going to be the entertaining part of the broadcast. Actually, the play on the field made it the game that much more entertaining to watch. Gus Johnson, we know him for years doing Knicks basketball on the radio side in the 90s. Of course, he was the college basketball voice for when he was working with CBS back in the day, even though he never got a chance to call a Final Four. When you think of March Madness, you think of his enthusiasm and his great voice. Ha ha! But he was the Milwaukee Bucks TV voice for the last few years. Of course, now with his assignments changing, he's doing still college football, the big noon Saturday game. Of course, he's going to do more NFL games this season. So I'm really proud of him. He's a Howard graduate. Him and Talib had great chemistry yesterday. And of course, you mentioned the last second call, that missed field goal by Joseph of the Vikings. For those of you that missed it, you can catch it right here on YouTube or go to social media. It was very good, entertaining call.
It was a very entertaining game. I'm glad they got an entertaining game because, like we said earlier, that game could have easily been a blowout. especially with all the injuries that the Vikings had, that a lot of the guys didn't play. So the fact they were able to keep it close, I think they should be commended for that. For me, I would say Once Upon a Time in Queens. For those who don't know, that's the anthology series from the latest anthology series from the 30 for 30 folks at ESPN, chronicling the mid-'80s New York Mets, of course, culminating in them winning the World Series in 1986, and they kind of get you behind the scenes and stuff like the stuff that went on. Let's just say you have to watch the unfiltered version to actually really appreciate. I actually forgot it was on, and I had to watch it like on ESPN2, the repeats. They bleeped out a lot of the good stuff, so I couldn't really fully appreciate it. But they
treated it like Last Dance, because you remember Last Dance, of course, the Michael Jordan story. They had the raw version on ESPN, and I believe ESPN2 had the Walt Disney version, as we call it, with the beeps out.
Yeah, and also I actually was able to watch those last two parts, the 3 and 4, unfiltered. Actually, it was a lot more entertaining, as I predicted. But so many, and Keith Hernandez's cat was there on the table. We saw.
I was going to ask you that. I still haven't seen the whole thing yet, and I will see the whole thing this week, I promise. But as I mentioned on our last episode, I only saw the segment when they did Game 6 between the Mets and Boston. I'll get to that part in a second. But, well, why was that cat there, Lakeena, in front of Keith Hernandez? And what was the purpose of that cat being there?
That's his cat. That's his cat. That's his cat. That's all I can say. That's his cat. And his cat wanted to crash the interview, so they let him. And he was a good cat, so he didn't make any noise, nothing like that. He actually didn't mind the camera. He actually didn't look at the camera. He was looking at him. So I guess that kind of helped a little bit. But on a serious note, though, you saw Darryl Strawberry and his background, and came from an abusive family, and that culminated in what happened with him and his first wife. He's actually now a minister. You'll see it in the doc. You guys haven't seen it yet. Also, Doc Gooden and what happened after the win, and the fact that he wasn't there at the parade. I won't get into it, but you guys have to actually watch it. Some of the other stuff, the weird stuff that happened. Sid Hernandez, I should say. He was sort of called upon those last few outs of Game 6, and just so many weird things. You have to actually watch the series to actually fully appreciate and see what happened. And the GM at the time, Wade Kersey, he traded in Kevin Mitchell, who actually ended up winning MVP in the NL with the Padres a few years after he got traded. He traded the guy that I'll say this. George Foster, who was traded mid-season in '86, said that, they would trade, a black player for a mediocre white player, or something else. He said, I'm paraphrasing what he said. This wasn't verbatim, but he got traded, and after the season, Kevin Mitchell got traded, and Ray Knight also got traded. The hero from the Game 6, and. As of course they got to Game 7, it was right after Game 7, actually right after the parade, and just I don't know if this could have lasted longer than it did, but it was actually a really wild ride. Of course, they did that infamous plane ride that happened after their NLCS win against the Astros. They were again. You have to watch the series to really fully appreciate it, but it was just another great anthology series. So even if you weren't a Mets fan, it was really cool that they got the guys that are from Queens, like Chuck D and John McEnroe and Cyndi Lauper and a few others, who were there at the time, who were actually big stars themselves in the '80s. Kind of help them sort of cultivate help tell us sort of what went on there. So if you guys have a chance to watch it. Also, music actually played a part too. They had all types of music. They had the Beastie Boys in the background. There were Queens. Rap group. I think I believe they also had Run DMC, a couple of their hits on there too. They were also New York guys. So yeah, it was just it was a really great anthology. So if you guys haven't had a chance to watch it yet, make sure you guys check it out. It's got ESPN Plus. I'm sure ESPN will repeat it too, throughout the rest of the year. But just to look out, check out the listings for it. But it was another great anthology series.
Real quick on the Game 6 review against the Red Sox. They interviewed Bob Stanley, the closer of the Red Sox. I was surprised he even talked about it, but he was gracious enough to do it. But they did show the clip. I don't know if I said this on Friday, Lakeena. If I did, so be it. For those of you that watched our show on Friday, but they did show the Bob Costas, who was of course working for NBC at the time. They had the trophy in the Boston's locker room, and they had the tarps up covering the Boston's players' personal things in their jerseys and all that. As soon as Ray Knight crossed home plate to tie the game, they rushed that thing on out of there. And I said to myself, if that was in today's society, we have so much mobile equipment and things along that line. That thing would have been out just like that instead of holding the Red Sox players entering the clubhouse. That thing would rush out in a hurry like someone's stealing something from a grocery store. I said, so many things have changed from 35, 40 plus years. If that would have happened today, let's get all ball out of here. Rush. 5 seconds. Come on.
Well, and I think what's interesting too, that there are a lot of things that went on then that they wouldn't be able to get away with now. Of course, like I said, the infamous plane ride back, and Sandy Carter, Gary Carter, God rest his soul. She was really gracious and really nice lady. She was actually interviewed. You did the interview, so that was really nice of her to do it. And I'm sure if he had been he would have been still with us. I'm sure he had a lot to say because. Keith Hernandez said that he was a leader, but then Gary Carter said he was a leader, and this and that. So it was just, I'm sure it's too bad that he's not with us. I'm talking about Carter. Because I'm sure he would have said he was a leader. So it was it was just funny, and also too some of the stuff that they did. With the women and the drugs. We saw Keith Hernandez when he went through with his drug issues. That's why when he was with the Cardinals, Whitey Herzog traded him after their World Series, and of course we all know Strawberry's drug issues, and also Doc Gooden's issues. So it was just so much stuff that they could have that did then. They couldn't get away with it now in social media. They just couldn't do it.
All right, Lakeena, close us out.
Oh boy! Oh gosh! That still got. I know you haven't finished watching it yet, but that still has gotten me in a daze. So, but guys, please check it out if you guys get a chance. You can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. We'd like to thank Lamont Pope, the Chicago Tribune writer. He covers the White Sox for their great publication. Check his articles out at chicagotribune.com, and you can follow him at Lamont Pope on social media. You can download the Sports Zone Chicago app at the Apple iTunes Store or Google Play. Make sure it says Sports Zone Chicago. You can watch our shows live or catch up on previous shows that we have here on the network. Also, you can follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. If you want to listen to the audio version of this program, you can do so by simply typing in War on Anchor. That we're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you type in those search engine boxes on the podcast platforms, WARR on Anchor, and you can follow War Media on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, at War Media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And you can catch this show live and in living color every Monday and every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Once again, we air live. We go live every Monday and every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
All right, so for Sid, I'm Lakeena. This has been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Be good to each other. Y'all be safe out there. If you're not going to get vaccinated, at least wear a mask and wash your hands. So, have a great day, everybody. It's getting a little cooler out there, folks. It's going to be a little more seasonal. So make sure you got your fall clothes on and get ready for the foliage. So this has been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you Friday.
Go Sox 2021 AL Central Division champs. Holla!
That's a mouthful.